Coco, good morning. How are you, hon?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. Listen, are you really... When I heard this story that Coco Brown, who we know as an adult film star, so to speak, that you were going to go into space, I said, there's no way that's not actually going to happen. But you're telling me you're really going to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next year, March 2015, I'm flying out with the Space Expedition Corporation and from the island of Curacao. And, of course, it's been a great journey for me on how to get there. Of course, you know, how my life had started and, you know, being a single mom and, you know, all the other things that I did just to get to where I am today. And, of course, I feel like, you know, just... Wow, yeah.
Well, Coco, I remember that there was a story that I think it's Lance Bass. What was he with? NSYNC or whatever, one of these boy bands. Lance Bass was going to go into space, and he was training.
Heard about that.
Yeah, and then Lance Bass hasn't gone into space yet. Whatever happened to that?
Well, you know, maybe it could be two things, but it's really not my problem. It could be either he chickened out or he couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Well,
but, you know.
Well, are you paying for this, or is someone paying for you to go, or how does this work?
See, I don't know the thing with Lance Bass. Of course, I'm paying for it myself, but this is the real deal. You know, I do space training at NASA, and I actually become a real astronaut. I get my real astronaut wings. It's not like a plaything. It's not a commercial flight with 7 people. It's just myself and the co-pilot, and this is the reason why I have to go through so much training, of course, before the mission.
How much does it cost for you to go up into space?
It costs in American U.S. dollars $100,000.
$100,000
plus. If you want to do the extra missions, one mission is included, though.
Yeah. I'm watching on RMG TV. I'm watching you, I guess, do some zero gravity training where you're floating around. What do? They take up a plane and then they go up and down, up and down, up and down. It gives you some weightlessness for a minute or so.
Actually, the zero-G thing, the zero gravity thing that I did was at NASA at Cape Canaveral.
Uh-huh.
And the zero-G, it just teaches you when I go into space to understand the different levels of handling zero gravity, lunar, and Martian, because that was one of the things they explained to us. We had very intensive we have very intensive trainings, meetings, and things like that to understand what would happen to us in space. So this training was just a thing to let us know, to be perfectly honest, not to get sick.
Yeah,
I was going
to say it.
It was actually just showing you that, okay, that gravity will come back really immediately.
Right,
so you have to be prepared to drop, but... after about the 12, we did it about 17 times. And about after the 12th time, I was feeling pretty sick, and I said I didn't want to. I'm like, okay, I'm glad it's over, but I'm not afraid to do it again.
Coco Brown is on with us, adult film actress, former. I guess you're not doing the porn stuff anymore, are you? Or are you still
Absolutely
doing?
not.
Okay.
I haven't done that since 2003.
So she is going into space aboard a rocket. And I guess she's serious about this. It sounds like she's very serious. She's done the zero gravity training. She's paid the. Have you paid the money yet, or do you have to?
Actually, I have paid already.
All right, it's costing more than $100,000 to go up in space. How long is your space flight going to be? How long does it last?
Actually, it's only an hour and a half of my life.
So it's pretty short. You're not going out there for.
It's a pretty short thing, but what makes it so important, so intense, or something else different is the fact that there's only 100 people they're allowing to do this, and there's only 100 people. Even if 100 people afterwards sign after the first 100 people, they cannot really go to that part that actually there's a certain height you have to go into space to actually be considered an astronaut, and we're actually going to do that. And they're only going to actually have 100 people do that. So.
All right, let me ask you. So we know what Coco Brown is going up in space, and I want to talk to you more about that here in just a second. But let's talk about you. Where were you born? Where did you grow up, Coco?
I was born in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, all right. I've been out there many times.
I know. It's been a long time. I heard I had really bad weather recently, but
Where do you live now? Los Angeles, I'm assuming?
I'm bi-coastal. I have I'm between New York and Los Angeles, and of course Europe, because like the Space Expedition Corporation is in the Netherlands. So of course I have a couple more trainings coming up before my mission, and I have to, of course, be close to Holland.
Now, I was reading about Coco Brown. The story that I got was that she was discovered by this adult film producer in Las Vegas. She was working, that's where I grew up. She was working at Deja Vu, which, if it's the one I'm thinking of, is over there on Industrial Boulevard in Las Vegas.
That is very correct.
Yes, I grew up there, and so you, how did you make it from Toledo to Las Vegas? Why did you end up in Vegas, and why did you end up working in the strip club? How did that come about?
Actually, I'm going to tell you, my family and I moved out there to Vegas. I went to junior high school there. But I moved back to Vegas a couple of years later. Yeah, my family moved there when I was in junior high school.
Okay.
So I really am a Vegas girl. I do claim that.
Sure.
Even though I was born in Toledo, I do claim that I was a Vegas girl. Yes.
People ask me what it was like growing up in Vegas. I go, it was great. It was unbelievable. I had my first fake ID at the age of 14. You go out, you buy beer. It was insane.
I was always a good girl, and everyone has bad moments in their life, but I was always pretty much a good girl growing up in Toledo.
Now, what happened? Because every strip club I've ever been into, the girls are always, I'm putting myself through school and that sort of stuff, and I never believe their story. Now, you sound very well spoken. You sound as if you're an intelligent woman, and I'm not saying that if you're a stripper, you're not intelligent or well spoken. It's just a stereotype that these girls are on hard times or whatever. How did you end up working in this strip club? Why did you start doing that?
Well, I'm going to just be truthful with you. I'm going to summarize it, but if we really want to get to it, it would be like a 2-hour story. But I got into it because I felt it was one step up before my life before that. And I do everything from my son. I was only a stripper for 5 months of my life because I just knew that I wasn't trying to put myself through school or anything like that. I just had a driving force to just want to do better for my son, and I felt like it was a step better than where my life was before. And summary, if you want to hear the short version.
So you have a son. How old is he now?
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's a big boy. He's 17.
17 years old. And so then you get discovered in Coco Brown is on with us. She's going up into space. You get discovered. You do all these adult films and stuff. Were you worried at the time, like, oh, my son's going to turn 17 one day and see these? Or did you just think, hey, look, I want the money to be able to put him into school and buy him food and clothing and shelter and that sort of stuff, and I'll worry about explaining it all to him when he's later. I'll worry about that later. What was going through your head?
Well, actually, what was going through my head at that moment was not about food and shelter and things like that. It was just the fact of having the understanding within myself that I want him to have a better life that I knew that was normal, because you're from Vegas, I'm from Vegas, and I know what it's like. And I said, you know what, if I want my son to grow up and have a great life here, stripping is great, but my son is more important. I'm not knocking nothing if anyone does. Do you know what I'm saying? It was just that my driving force behind doing everything was not because of rent, because I still had a great apartment, even if I didn't have a child, because I just would have kept stripping. But I had to have a goal behind what was making me drive to do something, and that driving force was to say, yeah, I'm not going to pay rent. I just want to make sure he has a better life than going to not a good boarding school or a good private school or being in a really good area or not having to worry about crime or peer pressures or, there's peer pressure everywhere. But as a good parent, you would, if that's important to you, then you would think about that. That's not where you want to be. And pretty much my driving force behind everything was my son, but not because of food and shelter. It was more just to make that his life is a change over mine, or a change over just something, not even a change, just something better than what I had.
So why did you, and you said that you got out of the business around 2003, 2004 or something.
Yes,
how come you decided?
To be exact.
What's that? I'm sorry. What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was in 2003 to be exact.
And
at the peak of my career.
Why did you decide I'm going to call it quits? I read that you might have had there was an HIV scare that went around in 2003, and that freaked you out. Is that true?
Partially, that is partial part of the story because that has been printed in the press. But also, it was maybe a year before that. There was an incident. My son has always gone to the best private boarding schools in the world. And there was a little incident, nothing bad or anything like that. It was just that I had just thought, well, okay, he's getting a little older. I don't need to do this anymore. It's not important enough for me to jeopardize what I'm trying to work for, which was his education, pretty much. I guess it was more of his education of trying to see, and then I pretty much dropped it because of that, because I was always I don't want to like to always talk about the adult entertainment industry, but I was always a condom-only girl. I do strictly always believe that, and it had nothing to do with anything. It was just the fact that a year before, there was a little thing with the school, and I don't want to jeopardize anything for him. And the scare with the HIV was just the topping on the cake, pretty much. I just said, okay, then. It gives me a better reason to leave.
So now we fast forward to today, and Coco Brown is going up into space next year. She's training. I mean, this may actually happen. If this happens, I'm going to...
No, it will happen. It's not a may unless the company blows up in the Netherlands, but actually it's going to happen.
Well, why did you go to them and say, I want to go into space? Did they come to you? How did this come about?
Well, no, I did not go to them. I never even heard of them. I got invited to a luncheon in Berlin. It was only for 12 people, and I had no clue that they were going to be talking about actually going into outer space. They just gave me an invite at like the day before to say a space luncheon, and I thought we were just going to do like Discovery Channel stuff because I do like watching that on the Discovery Channel about the stars. But then they actually said, hey, look, 12 people, we're giving you the opportunity to go to space. And I'm sitting there like, am I at the right meeting? Are you sure this is for me? But then after thinking about it and everything like that, I braved up 6 months later after that meeting that they had. It was a very big press release, actually. It was in Berlin, Germany.
Did they come to you because my understanding is that Coco married a guy who is like a German multi-millionaire. I think you're since divorced, I believe, but did they come to you because they go, Coco has some money, so you could probably get her to pay to go into space, or why did they pick you?
No, actually, no, absolutely not. And if that was the case, you would have to ask Space Expedition Corporation. But how they came to me was I actually am a member of another private group, and a private concierge person was handling this event for them. And I had just moved to the city of Berlin, and I was just contacting, outreaching to that group, not that private concierge, but the private group. And then the concierge said, you know what, I do have an event. One person just canceled. It's for 12 people only. Come to it. So I don't really think it had to do anything like that, because I guess if it was it just was my destiny that someone else canceled, because I was never even, it was a last minute invite. I didn't even get my invite in the mail. It was just like they only printed it out and they were like, we don't have enough time to get it to you in the mail. But no, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, they could have, but I cannot make that assumption, no.
Are you completely set for life now? I mean, do you just have more money than you know what to do with, Coco?
Well, no, I don't like to really talk about my financial situation, but I have enough money to make sure my son is okay, and that's the most important thing to me.
Is this son, this 17-year-old son, is he the
next president of the United States? Yes.
He may be. Is this the guy who you married, the multimillionaire guy? Is that his son, or did you meet that guy after you had this son?
No, that is not his child.
Okay, all right. Listen, when is this space flight going to take place, Coco?
March 2015.
All right. Will you check in with me closer to you actually going up into space? I'd love to talk to you again because I'm fascinated by this. I want to see this happen. I think this is great.
Absolutely, not a problem. I would love to come back and do that.
Coco, I appreciate you coming on the show. And,
Thank you for your
and good
time.
luck. Thank you. Coco Brown, everyone, the former porn star.